Do this in remembrance of me. 6 words that changed the world. The words come to us from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. They offer our mandate and also our mission as Christians. Do this in remembrance of me. And so we do. At this altar today, once again, we will. A gift we receive so overwhelming and yet so humbling. We receive today the Creator to hold in our hands, a simple host as thin as a piece of paper. The bread of life meant to nourish us, food for our journey. And like the miracle of the Lord, loaves and fishes we heard in Luke's gospel, the gift extends beyond our wildest imagination. It satisfies every hunger, the hunger for grace, for holiness, and the hunger we have for God Himself. With the Eucharist, we get all that. We are drawn by the desire to live out those 6 words. Do this in remembrance of me, which is really the sum and substance as we celebrate the feast of Corpus Christi, the body and blood of Christ. The reason for what we will do today: celebrate Mass, sing music, a procession not to glorify an inanimate object, the host. It is to remind the world that it is consecrated host that we have been given Christ, not an idea, not a symbol, and not an abstract bit of theology. No, it is wider and deeper and much more mysterious than that. Look at that host, and you look at Christ. One of the church fathers centuries ago described how the first Christians received communion. He said to those Christians, put one hand on top of the other, form a throne, for you are about to receive the King. Make yourselves ready to receive that King. Receive God into your heart. The very source of our salvation is transformed into something you can hold in the palm of your hand. Think what we become when we receive the body and blood of Christ. Think about this. We become nothing less than living tabernacles for that host. God dwells within us. A wonderful hymn that we sometimes sing says, become what we receive, and what we receive becomes us. In some small way, we have been changed. We become instruments of Christ, bearers of Christ, a tabernacle of Christ. Once you have received Him, we will never be the same again. This great feast is not only about communion, it's about community. In Luke's gospel, Jesus did not pass out individual loaves and fishes to everyone assembled there. No, instead, He took what was blessed, broke it, and distributed it. This is what He does for us. Blessed and broken, He distributes Himself to us. The message is very clear. We don't experience this through isolation. We experience it in community. Last Saturday was the one day of caring here at St. Joseph. I believe at last count there were 160 volunteers that came that day as early as 8 o'clock in the morning and stayed as late as 5 and 6 at night. They went out into the community with Christ in their hearts. They went out and fed the homeless. They went out and stripped wallpaper and painted fences. They went out and distributed food to the needy. And even some just spent time with those who had not had someone to spend time with in a long, long time. This is what Christ asks us to do. This is community. This is communion. Christ tells us we have much work to do. You and I are part of something greater and more beautiful than we can ever imagine. And I know we would all do it again as a community of faith. We would go out every day and be a community and spend Christ's love. It is how we live and how we love. We become instruments of Christ, bearers of Christ in our tabernacle of love. What will we do with this knowledge? How will we use what has changed us to perhaps change the world? Our work then begins to share what we receive in communion. May we all come to know his love in our hearts today and forever.